Right, a very good morning from whatever part of the country or county you are watching us from. It's always a pleasure that we are having you on board. Welcome so much on this episode, Tuesday, the 3rd of August 2021 it is. Quite a lot we are set to have this morning. Talk about all matters that are happening as far as the dailies are concerned. Remember that is on our first segment of the show where we take time to analyze and give you the deeper meanings of the articles and the headlines as far as the dailies that are concerned this morning. What exactly are we waking up to as far as the news is concerned? We'll have a discussion also pertaining to the education sector. Being on a Tuesday, definitely we must take time and discuss matters to do with education. Quite a lot is happening in our education sector. Talk about the Form 1 reporting in different schools. Yesterday we saw long queues, long waits. Parents had to wait for long hours for their kids to be admitted. Quite a lot of concerns have been raised. Talk about the issue of fraud claims. You find a parent comes and of course find the slot at which the kid had been slotted has been forced in some kind of way transferred to another school. Parents have had to blame issues about the timing and monies to be spent. That is what will be putting into perspective as far as the education sector is concerned. Largely so, we'll be speaking about education concerns and issues about improvement of the qualities and standard of education in the country. And to help me discuss that matter, I'll be speaking to one gentleman who understands much when we are talking about education. What does he think going forward, how we can advise the government to improve the quality of the education in the country, the role of the teacher, student, and the parent in making sure that the education sector goes forward positively is what we'll be coming up to engage into deeply on that same matter. And as usual, it will be so wise if you share your comments concerning the program. Where exactly are you watching us from? What do you think about our topic of discussion, education concerns? What do you think about, if you are a parent out there, do you feel that your kid is getting the enough education that he requires or she requires? Then you can share your experience as well via that number you see below your screen, or you can also move to our social media platform. As usual, it's Facebook, Boss TV. Like the page, then drop your comment and be so wise to hear from you, and we will get to hear what you have to say concerning what we'll have to discuss later on our second segment of the show. But first thing first, we kickstart the program by looking at what's making headlines. Of course, this is the first segment of the show where we take time and analyze the different headlines that have been given on the headlines on the papers today. And of course, I'll be steering you up for this next 2 hours or so brace yourself for an exciting show ahead. And my name is Shadrack Ogega, and in studio, I'm just not alone. I've got my guest with me. We'll be engaged in the newspaper review, and of course, later on, we'll also have a discussion concerning the education matters. And my guest is one who never disappoints. It's quite promising as far as what he does in the community. I'm talking about one gentleman by the name Mr. George Kogalo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Shadrack.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm great.
You fine?
I'm fine. I thank God for the favor and also for the opportunity to be with you this morning.
Right.
I'm very much grateful indeed, yeah.
Kogalo.
Yes.
Kogalo is the one Kogalo I know about, or what?
It's the Kogalo you know. I know my name is George Otieno Ogalo, so I'm naturally Kogalo. The way you hear and the one that you know, but I represent Changamwe sub-county in the Kogalo sector. You can look at me, I have to resemble Kogalo. It's only that today the program is totally different. I did not dress in our usual attires.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand you're asking me if you can come with the attires.
Yeah, it's always good to know, so that first of all, day one is just to know the in-house. You be in the house, then you know the interior, how it is.
Right.
The next time when invited for such kind of occasional dress as per the talk. Yes.
Definitely.
Today we have the issue of education.
But we're so grateful that you're here.
Very much thankful, I appreciate you, and I've acknowledged your invitation. Yes.
The fact that you're one of the residents in Changamwe constituency,
Yes.
what do you think about Boss TV having such a TV station in a locality like this?
Okay, these are prayers that has been answered within the Changamwe community. The effect of the devolution one was to bring most of the things that we did not have around to come around. So when we, for instance, when we come and see such kind of big station now, people of the local like us can come and share their views and also educate and teach other people within. We appreciate and thank God for you and the entire staff. This one is a dream that was planted, but eventually it came true.
Right.
So it's a dream that we are sailing in.
What do you look forward to? With Boss TV now?
With Boss TV, during the first day, I believe, from my entrance, what I had there was just the songs of the gospel. You know, there is no way you can survive when you don't embrace yourself with grace.
Okay.
That first entrance made me to be okay. I feel that I'm at home. So the Boss TV, I strongly believe that we shall move to a greater level based on the things that I do to the community and the Kenya as a whole. If we present and emphasize on other people, we'll actually touch and change other people's lives. I'll appreciate.
Right.
Yes.
Of course, that is what we are doing every single day. We make sure that we entertain you, educate you, and inform you on various matters. Like he had mentioned, that it was our previous program, that is the Divine Hour, as brought to you by Mr. Eric Mongare every single morning, 6 a.m. until 7 a.m. You can find him, and of course you can listen to the gospel music that he was talking about there. But of course, coming back to what we are doing this morning, waking up with the dailies, I'm holding the Standard. The front page of the Standard talks about the Form 1 admission. Quite a lot was happening yesterday. Remember, it was announced that the Form 1 students are supposed to be reporting between August 2nd and August 6th. And quite long queues were witnessed yesterday in different secondary schools. You saw also in our subsequent bulletins yesterday, we brought to you how the situation was like in different schools here in Mombasa County. But shifting gears and looking at what's making headlines on the front page of the Standard. On the headline, it talks about nightmare as Form 1 hit by fraud claims. We're told that long queues mark the start of admission in schools as some parents meet with the rude shock after their children were denied admission over low marks. Names missing in ministry placement list. Of course, that is the story that has been given focus on page 1, extended all the way to how it was on page 12 and 13 of the Standard. And shifting gears and looking at that story deeply on page 12 and 13, we're told that chaos, congestion in rush for places. This talks about the 1.7 million students who are set to be joining Form 1. Of course, there was issues about children having denied admission over low marks, and issues about ministry names of students missing in the ministry's placement. And of course, parents got this as quite a shock and a surprise to them. Bwana Kugan,
yes.
In as much as we'll be discussing matters to do with education,
yes.
Looking at this headline now,
yep.
Do you feel like it was quite a nightmare as it has been put here?
Basically, whenever Form 1's intake, always, whenever they take place, normally there is a nightmare. This is improper planning.
Right.
Because I don't see the reason why some names can be missing, which means somebody somewhere never did his job.
Right.
And those are the kind of things that affect our education. And that's when we talk, can you know the reason why somebody's name could not appear? Yet the parents toiled and moiled to have the peace and take the child to the school. Then finally, you find that you cannot admit to a person. There's somebody who never did his job.
Right.
Basically.
Right. And looking at the frustration at which parents are undergoing during this time, you as a parent and somebody who understands the education sector, do you feel like what exactly do parents need to do at a time like this?
Okay, it's just a matter of, at the time of this, the parents are really suffering and really starving, actually, to ensure that they get a quality education to their children. Like now, even if you move along the stages, all the way, there's no even the means of transport. The parents are standing there with their children carrying the boxes. But what I believe is they are undergoing some kind of great frustration, of which I would wish and urge the parents the proper planning of these school admissions should be organized in advance, so that you be ahead of the nightmares that now they are really facing. Yes.
Right. Quite thoughts of my guests there concerning the biggest story as far as the Standard is concerned this morning. It talks about chaos and congestion in rush for places. That is, of course, has to do with the Form 1 registration and admission. We began yesterday, and of course it will extend today all the way to 6th of August. Quite the numbers there, according to the numbers on page 12 of the Standard, talks about the 1.7 million. These are the Form 1s who are set to be joining secondary school. And of course, out of this number, there has been the question of the 100% transition, issues about combating COVID-19 in our schools, and the preparedness of the learners, teachers, as well as the parents, in making sure that there is the safety of students in as much as they get along with their learning process. All those matters that pertain to education, remember, like I mentioned, We'll have a lengthy discussion on our second segment of the show. But of course, as we proceed, we're looking at what's making headlines on page 4 of the Standard. I am not too old to lead Kenya, says Raila. Of course, this has to do with the question at which, if at all, the former Prime Premier, that is the ODM chief, Raila Odinga, as to whether if he's ready and set to become the 5th president of the country, owing to the fact that he has shown every single sign that he may be on the ballot come 2022. And of course, he rubbished claims of whether if he's old enough. According to his critics, they have said that it's high time that he may as well as retire from politics and allow fresh blood into the Kenyan politics. But somebody also who understands matters to do with the politics here, Bwana Kogalo.
Yes.
Do you see Raila old enough not to be president?
That one is born to chew. Old is gold.
Says who?
Says as the talks says it's all is gold.
Right.
So people are not seeing Raila being an older coming president, but they want to get the gold in it because they know that Raila has got what it takes. However, the age.
Right.
Because when it comes to the leadership, there is what is called the knowledge, and he's knowledgeable, and he has got the experience to deliver the services that are needed. That's why he asked people, do you want me to move on? Then he was endorsed by the people saying, carry on, Baba, because we believe in you. But to me, I feel there is no age in leadership. So long as you are the vision bearer and you want people to pass, to reach the level, definitely, Raila, let's go.
Right.
Yes.
But the question will be, Mr. Kogalo, you know, we need to have fresh blood in our politics.
It's true.
We are tired of the names that we know.
Yeah.
Don't you think also that's factor enough to consider, to say some of the kind of sayings that Mr. Raila is old enough to be president?
You know, they talk of the young tax because you want a new blood there in that line. But does that new blood has got the vision? Here is not the name or not the blood, but the vision that someone carries. Do you have the capability to deliver?
Right.
This is not a local, this is not a county, but a national one.
Right.
Based on the things that are needed to for an economy. Now we are crying for the economy. Do we have an economist? And for you to be an economist, you must have passed some fires, like the one who has passed some fires. Now that's why we go to Raila, because of the pros and cons of life that he has passed. Endorses him to be the president, the 5th president, apart from considering the age.
Right.
Yes. That's my take according to that.
It's okay. But looking at Raila himself as a factor here,
Yes.
do you feel he has what it takes to become the 5th president of Kenya?
Definitely my answer is yes. Why? This is someone who has really struggled. Raila is a leader who is very much passionate when it comes to his ways of doing things and his deliberations, and also the ways of making people sail through.
Right.
To me, I will just tell you, he has what it takes to at least think and change and transform our nation to the nation that we expect, to the nation that we have been praying for. Who brought the issues of the devolution? Now Boss TV is within Changamwe.
Right.
Where the devolution came, it is through the gentleman. So I cannot allow Boss TV to come out from Changamwe. I want the Boss TV to stay and very many people to come. This is based on the appearance and also the existence of the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister.
Right.
Yes.
Of course. But by virtue of age, my guest says that he does not feel that it's quite a reason or enough for him not to clinch the presidency. But according to him himself, according to page, that is page 4 of the Standard here, Raila Odinga, the ODM chief, says that he is not too old enough to lead Kenya, and he's got what he has to in his basket in a bid to foot all the way to State House come 2022. It is so unfortunate that some people are saying Raila is too old to climb Mount Kenya in the quest for votes. What they don't know is that I have a lot of energy and with strong donkeys, foot soldiers for climbing the mountain. And of course, his eyes are set for the 2022 general election, which is close to 12 months in counting. Of course, it's quite a developing story. We'll wait and see how that is going to pan out. Details concerning that story on how Raila speaks of how he is ready to the 2022 general election. You can find that on page 4 of the Standard. But still staying on matters to do with the politics of the day, DP Ruto allies lay strategy to blame Raila for failures and unkept promises of Jubilee Party. Of course, remember, quite a lot is happening in the Jubilee administration, being the ruling party that we have in the country. And of course, according to page 5 of the Standard, DP allies are now strategizing on how to blame Raila on some of the unkept promises of Jubilee. And they say that once Raila came into working with the President Uhuru Kenyatta, focus had shifted now from issues about the Big Four agenda, issues about the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta, together and shifting it to matters of the BBI that of course has derailed efforts in making sure that some of the promises that Jubilee came up with are being kept and are being met. Bwana Kugalo.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel Jubilee failures and unkept promises should be blamed on Raila?
No, not really. I always believe in whenever a problem occurs, when you go even to do the guidance and counseling, you cannot just crop into an issue. First of all, go to the root cause.
Right.
What were the causes of Raila getting into the Jubilee affair? What happened? And who were there? It was the president, the current president, and the Ruto.
Right.
Then what made Ruto to distance himself? So there is a little bit of the enmity in between the political affiliation. That's what is affecting people on the ground.
Right.
Because they have got those two gentlemen, they met, and agreement was made. And after the agreement was made, within a tweak of an eye, the whole nation changed. People could laugh, people could start shaking hands. But from that point of inception of the handshake, that's when it started to distance himself.
Right.
So I don't believe in that. Right.
Of course, that is the thought of my guest concerning this topic that pertains DP Ruto allies having to lay a strategy on how they can blame the former premier, that is Raila Odinga, for the failures and unkept promises of Jubilee. According to this article, it says that determined to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta, Deputy President William Ruto, and opposition leader are struggling to shake off Jubilee burdens while also hanging on to its credit. While Ruto's team is bringing Raila into the picture, the latter team has been working to distance themselves from Jubilee ills, asking the DP to carry the Jubilee cross on behalf of his retired boss. And of course, this is set to go all the way to the 2022 campaigns, and how it is quite a strategy on the DP Ruto's wing to blame Raila concerning the different failures and unkept promises of the Jubilee administration. Also, you can see a picture there of UDA supporters, a party that is largely affiliated to Deputy President William Ruto concerning that issue. You can find it on page 5 of the Standard. But still staying put with matters to do with the politics of the day, on page 6, we are told that principals now scheme to make Okoa Kenya a formidable ahead over polls. We are told that the One Kenya Alliance, Okoa Kenya principals here, the likes of Musalia Mudavadi, ANC party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wiper party leader, as well as Moses Wetangula, that is the Ford Kenya and Baringo Senator and KANU Chairman, Mr. Gideon Moi, is now crafting moves to try and make Okoa Kenya strong enough to become one of the few forces to look upon in the 2022 general election.
Yes.
The question would be, Mr. Ogalo, do you feel like Okoa Kenya Alliance is the third force that can bring change in our political dynamics?
Okay, Okoa Kenya, if you look at it contains the political bigwigs.
Right.
Those people have been in the Kenyan politics for many years. And now they have assembled themselves, and as they assemble themselves to jostle into the 2022 elections, they have got some inner core secret.
Right.
Because if you hear Mudavadi talks, he says that working with Raila is not easy, but inawezekana. Don't rule it out at the moment, which means there's a point. When you come to Mr. Kalonzo, he says that even we left NASA, even the ODM left NASA, but we can as well work together, which means there is something in between these gentlemen which they have not yet exposed. But we know, as the days goes by, we shall know the truth of the matter.
Right.
Yes.
But of course, issues about Okoa Kenya to become one of the strongest alliance. Do you foresee that?
But you know, even when NASA came, we were told it was the strongest. So whoever comes, even if you produce one, will be the strongest. Nobody wants to be weak. So definitely with the summit, according to them, it is the strongest, but there are many which are coming.
Right.
So we can't now at the moment conclude, because we wait, the time is not yet. We are waiting for the time to arrive. Then we shall call a spade a spade. Yeah.
Very true. Details concerning that political story, you can find it on page 6 of the Standard, how the principals are now scheming to make One Kenya Alliance to become more formidable, and issues about strongest alliance ahead of the 2022 polls. Remember, that is also what is looking for, what we're looking forward to, issues of how these some alliance and coalitions will be formed, some of the plans that they are looking forward to in making sure that they become strong enough for the 2022 general election. We will follow up for you that story and give you details as they come through, in a bid to make sure that you stay put on our political affairs and news that has been given focus on page 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the Standard. That is what is making the headlines on that very same end. But of course, shifting gears also into another education story on page 10 before we look at what's making headlines in the Swahili newspaper. Now TSC pushes for mandatory retraining of secondary school teachers. We are told that more than 110,000 secondary school teachers are set to retrained on issues that have realignment with the CBC. And of course, according to the TSC now is pushing to have mandatory retraining for these teachers in line with the CBC. But of course, Bwana Kogalo,
yes,
do you feel also that this is quite important during a time at which we have changes in our curriculum? Do we feel like there is need for retraining of our teachers?
In fact, I'm very much thankful. I did not know that's already depicted in the today's newspaper, because those are one of my points in the next talk that we are supposed to have with you regarding the issue of education.
Right.
You know, to my suggestion is to improve the level of education, the standard. There we need to have retraining of the teachers, so that we can go out get the quality education that corresponds to the payment that the parents make. Because you cannot pay for something that cannot satisfy you.
Right.
So with this one, I applaud and I give them 100%. Please kindly do this so that the education standard can be uplifted in our nation, so that we produce people who can as well have the skillful knowledge outside to help people. I really believe in that.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, like he has mentioned, he has or rather quite a lot to discuss when we talk about education matters. Remember, that is what will be coming up in our second segment of the show. We will have a lengthy discussion on how to improve the level and quality and standards of education in the country. What are the concerns of the parents? Are you satisfied, you as a parent, on how your kid receives that education? Are you satisfied with the amount at which you are paying for the education? Most people say that education is not cheap. It's quite expensive in the country. Does this expensive education be seen equally with what our kids are producing as far as results are concerned? What is next after the education? Quite a lot to discuss on that matter on our second segment of the show that will be coming up next. But of course, looking at what's making headlines in the Taifa Leo. Bila shaka mpenzi mtazamaji, hili ndilo gazeti la Kiswahili ambalo tuko nalo hapa nchini na lazima tuweze kuliangazia kwa lugha ya Kiswahili. Na kwenye ukurasa wa mbele ni kwamba wapwani wakaushwa tena. Hii inahusiana na masaibu yanayokumba wakazi wa pwani wanapojitafutia riziki yazidi kuongezeka baada ya kubainika kuwa wavuvi wanaotegemea bahari Hindi sasa wanasukumwa nje na meli kubwa za makampuni ya kigeni. Na bila shaka swala hili la uvuvi ni mojawapo ya swala muhimu katika ukanda wa pwani, hususan wale ambao wanaegemea sana upande ule wa uvuvi kujitwalia na kujipatia kipato, lakini inaonekana kwamba wanazidi kusukumwa na kukaushwa baada ya kuonekana kwamba kuna makampuni ya meli kadha wa kadha yakiweza kuwasukuma kutoka maeneo ambao wanavuvia, na imeathiri pakubwa biashara zao. Je, hili swala la wapwani kuonekana kuwa wanatatizwa katika shughuli zao za kila siku ni swala ambalo limekuwepo na linatakana kushughulikiwa. Swali ni je, litaweza kushughulikiwa kwa namna gani? Bwana Kogalo,
yes,
wewe kama mmoja wa wakazi wa pwani ambao umekuwa hapa kwa muda mrefu, japo pengine jina lako linatoka kule katika sehemu tofauti, nafikiri unaelewa zaidi uchumi wa pwani unaegemea haswa uvuvi pia.
Yes.
Swala hili la kusema kwamba wapwani wamekaushwa na jinsi hali ilivyo kwa kiwango kwamba biashara zao zinaathirika na hali ya kujipatia kipato pia imeathirika pale, unahisi kwatakana kufanywa nini?
Kile kilichoko hapa, cha kwanza mimi nitarudi kwa uongozi. Wende kawa naweza sema si uongozi duni, lakini tungetaka tuwe na uongozi bora, kwa sababu kwa wakati huu watu wanapitia hali ngumu sana kimaisha, ambapo sana sana kwa upande wa hapa pwani uvuvi, kuna watu wengi sana tayari wanaingilia kutafutia watoto wao na shughuli zao za kimaisha. So ukiniambia kwamba watatolewa, watang'olewa, wataenda wapi? Na je, watoto wao wataishi namna gani? Na watoto wao wanaenda shule, si wao pia ni wazazi? Sasa je, watapata mapato yao wapi na kazi hakuna? Na huku tunaambiwa ya kwamba tujiajiri, mtu anajiamua ya kwamba that's the talent. Na sasa kwa nini sasa waondolewe? Ni kwa sababu unapata kuna wale watu waliobobea wanakuja kuchukua sehemu zao, ndipo wanasema wanakaushiwa. Je, uongozi wetu tuliochagua huku wanafanya kazi gani? Wanafaa kuingia kati na kutetea watu kupitia mambo kama haya.
Right.
Yes.
Uchumi wa pwani unaweza rudi mahali ulikuwa.
Uende but hii lazima itachukua muda, because kulingana vile ilivyo sioni ikirudi haraka vile watu wanavyosema, vile watu wanaweza taka. Lakini tukiwa na viongozi wale wanaoelewa mambo ya uchumi na vile inaweza saidia watu, hakuna kitu huwa kinaweza shinda sisi kufanya.
Right.
Ni uongozi bora tu. Sasa shida ni tunapoenda kwa uchaguzi, watu huwa wanageuka na wanabadilika, kisha wanakuja kufanya nini? Kuanza kulaumu wenzao, na ni wewe mwenyewe ukapanga foleni ukapitisha, kisha unakuja kushangia nini?
Right.
So we need, tungependa tuwe na uongozi bora, wale watu wanaoangalia, wanaochukua maisha ya binadamu na kazi zao kwa mstari wa mbele, ndio tusonge mbele kama wapwani.
Bila shaka.
Yeah.
Penzi mtazamaji, ni taarifa hiyo inayohusiana na uchumi wa pwani na kilio cha wapwani ambao wanasema kwamba wanakaushwa baada ya biashara zao kuvurugwa, hususan wale wanaoegemea katika uvuvi. Lakini taarifa hiyo iko katika ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo na ikaweza kuendelezwa katika ukurasa wa pili. Lakini tukisalia kwenye ukurasa huo wa mbele ni kwamba Ruto azuiwa uwanja wa ndege kusafiri nje. Ni taarifa ambayo iliweza kuibua hisia mseto miongoni mwa washikadau tofauti kwenye ulingo wa kisiasa, pamoja na wananchi pia kutoa semi zao kuhusiana na safari ya naibu rais William Ruto kuelekea kule Kampala, Uganda, ambayo ilitibuka jana kutokana na swala zima ambalo linaonekana kuwa hakuweza kuomba ruhusa kutoka kwa yule ambaye alitakana kuomba ruhusa. Lakini bwana Kogani,
yes,
kwa nini swala kama hili linaingizwa siasa? Na pengine katika ule upande mwingine wengi wanasema kwamba ilipaswa kuweze kuwa na utaratibu. Huwezi amka tu useme kwamba wao wataka kusafiri, lazima kuweze kuwa na utaratibu, kwende kwenye kuomba ruhusa, upewe zile stakabadhi, ndipo naibu rais aweze kusafiri. Lakini kuna wale ambao wanaingiza siasa hapa. Unahisi kwamba siasa imechezwa hapa ama vipi?
Sasa ndugu yangu, kwa kusema ukweli, mimi nilipoangalia ndani ya moyo wangu sikufurahia. Huyu ni makamu wa rais na walikuwa pamoja walipokuwa wakitembea kila mahali wakitafuta kuzuia mtu kama rais DP kusafiri. Mimi sikusikia ikiwa nzuri kwangu. Lakini kuna siasa ndani yake. Kwa nini ulete siasa ndani ya maisha ya mtu na shughuli zake? Na je, mwanzo si alikuwa akitoka? Mbona hakuzuiliwa?
Swali zuri.
Mwanzo si alikuwa kisafiri? Hatukujua sisi. Sasa mbona watu tunajua wakati amekataliwa, na kwa nini akataliwa? Maanake yeye anajua zile masharti anafaa kufuata, ndipo afanye nini? Afike safari zake. Na ambapo mimi najua kwamba alifuata yeye, but kile tunaandikiwa hapa siwezi nikaelewa vizuri, because hatujawahi ona kiongozi kama huyu DP pia kuzuiliwa. Lakini kuna mambo yao ndani ambapo wao wenyewe wanaelewa.
Right. Bila shaka. Lakini mbona Wakenya wengi wamepiga kelele kuhusiana na hili jambo?
Ni kwa sababu unajua maroho ya kizuizi imeingia ndani. Manake wanaona ya kwamba kile inafanya wanasiasa wengi wakose hata usingizi ni Ruto. Useme tu ukweli bila kuficha. Unapozuia mtu kuendelea, basi unampatia wakati muda mwingi kufikiria vile anaweza penya. Na sana sana DP Ruto, kwa kusema ukweli, amependaka kutumiaga neno la Mungu. Basi na watu wengi na Wakenya wengi wako upande wako kwa mbele neno la Mungu. Maana atakwambia anatumia Mathayo 7:7. Bisha utafunguliwa, omba utapewa, tafuta utapata. Yeye yuabisha. Na hivi lazima uzuiliwe kwanza ndipo upenye. Hata wewe unapopata kazi, ndio hata vijana ninapowaambia, lazima ujue jinsi unavyo ukikataliwa mahali vile unaweza faa kufanya ndio upenye. So hii mimi naona kwamba wanapatia Ruto political mileage kubwa sana.
Bila shaka.
Yeah.
Right. Lakini ni taarifa hiyo ambayo inahusiana na safari ya naibu rais William Ruto, ambapo waliweza kusitishwa pale jana kutokana na tatizo la sheria za usafiri pale, lakini wengi wamezungumzia hilo swala, wamesema kwamba pengine kuna uwezekano kuliweza kuchezwa siasa ndani ya taarifa hiyo, ndani ya tukio hilo, mpenzi mtazamaji, ambao ipo katika ukurasa wa pili wa Taifa Leo. Na tukisonga mbele kwenye taarifa za kaunti tofauti, tukifunga rasmi uchambuzi wa magazeti, tunamalizia pale ambapo Joho hatarini kula marufuku ya kushika uongozi. Unaomba kwamba mfanyabiashara wa Mombasa amewasilisha ombi la katika mahakama kumtaka gavana Ali Hassan Joho azuiwe kushikilia nafasi yoyote katika afisi za umma kwa kuwa alipatikana na hatia ya kutotii mahakama. Na kulingana na ombi hilo ambalo liliwasilishwa mahakamani, bwana Joho na diwani wa Changamwe bwana Bernard Ogutu walipatikana na hatia ya kutotii agizo la mahakama ya kuwatoza faini ya shilingi 250,000 na 120,000 mtawaliwa. Kwa hivyo hawatahitajika kuwa mamlakani wakati huu wala siku zijazo. Lakini hili swala la kukiuka agizo la koti ni swala ambalo limekuwepo sana katika taifa letu, na inahujumu utendakazi wa mahakama. Hata tumeweza kusikia kwamba wale viongozi wa idara ile mahakama wakisema kwamba kuna hali ambayo si sawa, kuona kwamba viongozi wa kisiasa hawatii sheria na maagizo ya mahakama. Inatuacha wapi sisi kama wananchi?
Unajua, heshima ni muhimu kibinadamu. Tunapoishi manyumbani, mahali popote, tunapofanya kazi, popote tuendapo, lakini mahakama, agizo la mahakama utapusha vipi?
Naam.
Hapo ndipo watu wao wanakosa. Ndipo ukifika pale unapata faini zingine haukutarajia kwa sababu ya kukosa fanya nini? Kuheshimu mahakama. Heshima lazima idumishwe kila mahali. So mimi naona ya kwamba heshima iendelee, na mahakama pia wanafanya kazi yao kulingana na vile walivyosoma wao.
Right.
So hatuwezi tukaingilia kazi yao. Kila mtu anajua vile wao anafanya kazi yake. Ndio maana amewekwa hapo. Tukikosana hapa nje, yeye anajua kuenda kuamua. Yes.
Lakini la msingi heshima iweze kuwepo.
Lazima iwe.
Right.
Ndio upate kufanya nini? Kuendelea. Ndio mimi pia nimependaga kuongea kuhusu Biblia sana. Isaya 1:9 it says, unless you are willing to be obedient, you will enjoy the goodness of the world. Right. Sasa je, hii ni heshima, inaongea kuhusu heshima. Heshima ni kitu muhimu. Hiyo heshima nimefanya hata vijana wengi tuko nao mtaani, kwa sababu hawezi ukafuza, hawezi ukapata ajira. Kwa sababu heshima hakuna, hawana heshima. Right. Ndio kile tunafanya katika mtaani, kuelimisha watu umuhimu wa huu heshima. Unaweza kuwa unatembea wawili, wanashikana mbele yako na wewe ni mzazi nyuma, hawakutambui. Kumaanisha nini heshima? Heshima ilienda wapi? So tunapofika kwa mahakama pale sasa ndio uamuzi kulingana na yale yametendeka huko.
Bila shaka.
Yes.
Swala zima la heshima hilo ndilo analozungumzia mgeni wangu ndani ya studio, ambaye ni mmoja tu wa wale wanasaidia jamii katika kuelimisha kuhusiana na mambo kadha wa kadha, ikiwemo kuzungumzia masuala ya kielimu. Ndiposa nikaweza kumtafuta, na hii leo yupo studioni haswa kuzungumzia swala zima la sekta ya elimu, na itakuwa mazungumzo hayo yanaletwa kwako kwa lugha ya Kimombo. Wale ambao hawaelewi Kimombo nini, yani ni Kizungu, na tutakuwa tunazungumzia haswa jinsi ya kuinua viwango vya elimu katika taifa letu la Kenya. Ni mmoja tu wa wale ambao wameweza kuzungumzia hilo swala kwa kimapana na marefu, na yupo hapa studioni kuzungumzia jinsi tutaweza kuinua viwango vya elimu pamoja na baadhi ya yale mambo ambayo yanaathiri sekta yetu ya elimu kutoka katika pande zote husika. Na kizungumzia pande zote husika, nazungumzia walimu, wazazi na wanafunzi wenyewe. Je, amekuja na nini kutuzungumzia kwenye swala zima la elimu? Yeye kama mmoja tu wa wale ambao yuko na passion na mahaba ya elimu, anayepe ya kusema kuhusiana na swala zima la kuinua viwango vya elimu. Mazungumzo hayo kama nilivyokujuza itakuwa yanakuja katika sehemu yetu ya pili, lakini kwa sasa sina la ziada ila kufunga rasmi uchambuzi wa magazeti. Natumai umeweza kuelewa mawili matatu kutokana na taarifa kuu kwenye magazeti. Unaweza kujitwalia nakala yako uweze kusoma na uweze kuelewa zaidi ya yale ambayo yamezungumziwa hapo, lakini niruhusu niweze kujitwalia tama la maji. Itakapokuwa narejea ni mjadala wetu wa siku, kwa hivyo usiende mbali, zidi kusema nasi.